Hey, what we're going to talk about is 5 reasons why photographers should build a body of work. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves out of the box creatively. All right, let's take a look at today's topic, and that is why photographers should build a body of work. And I cannot take credit for this because this goes back years ago. One of my mentors who I've worked with many times, and he really pushed me on this, and that was Joel Grimes. But as I was doing this, other major photographers that I really admired and I worked with or went to their workshops actually said the same thing. And a body of work, and I'm going to give you some guidelines here, but it could take you from, let's say you did a photo shoot for a day or two, some location, whatever. That could be set up as a body of work. But also, some photographers take years to build a body of work. Some might take 1 year, some might take 10 years, but there's really a lot of importance. And we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why you should consider doing this. Whether you do this for business or really as a novice or just this is a hobby. And again, I can't take credit for this. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 major things I was taught. But one of the things that Joel Grimes really helped me with was push myself to create the body of work that has very consistency, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes. But if you've ever seen some of my work that I've done for about, I think it's going on like 7 years now, something that looks like this, and again, like this, it just, I've done this over and over again, more times than I can count over the few years. And these were large canvas prints, by the way, for clients. And he forced me to really work hard, focus on what I wanted to do there, but to work hard to build that body of work for consistency. So let's take a look at the 5 reasons why you should consider doing this. But then I'm going to show you something I did a couple of years ago, and I'll show you the body of work that came up, and I'll tell you what I learned from that. All right? So are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, let's get into the 5 reasons. Number 1, and by the way, I had to write a list here, some notes and that, so I don't forget anything. So I apologize on me glancing down all the time. But number 1 is artistic identity. And you saw that with the photos, the 2 photos I just showed you, but I have done, who knows how many, I'm not going to sit there and count. I've done this since 2006. So we're going on, 9 years? I'll be starting my, next year, 10th year. And again, it just establishes that artistic identity. It establishes a recognition style that I created by doing that type of work with children. And it gives me a visual voice on what I'm doing in my identity there. Also, it helps others understand what the photographer stands for in creativity. And that is so important. I'll never forget when I talked to Joel Grimes and he was telling me about what he did. And he went out, I think it was about a year, maybe a little over a year, out west. And if you can imagine doing this now, he was taking his backdrop and lights and equipment with him. And he was going to different saloons looking for, of course, he was looking on the outside, different saloons where Harley Davidson people hung around, the big, burly, muscular motorcycle riders. And some of them were maybe clubs and that, and how he persuaded them, where he took them outside basically and did this shot against this plain background and did that work over and over and over again to help create that body of work. And he said that he started winning people over when he started showing that work. But in the beginning, he was, a little bit on the scare side to do that. But again, he's creating an artistic identity by coming up with that look. Number 2 is creating a consistency and growth. So again, consistency, what does that mean? Well, if you saw those 2 images I did with the kids, I'm replicating that over and over again with that particular look. So it demonstrates my technical and conceptual consistency when I'm working. It also shows my evolution and improvement over time. What does that mean? Well, when I look back at stuff I did, say, 10 years ago that I thought was pretty good, when I look at it today, I'm going, So I'll give you an example. There's a book I did a few years ago. It's a tabletop book just for me, not for sales or whatever. Again, I was working on a body of work, and they're all composites. And I was very proud of myself. When I look at the book today, there's about 3 images in that book right now would not qualify to go into that book. Why? Because I've elevated my skill level and just the way I look at things more into detail. I'm going, okay, those 3 images are like, average or somewhat mediocre. But again, if I had to do that again, they wouldn't qualify to be in the book. So again, number 2 is very, very important. Number 3 builds credibility and professionalism. In other words, acts of building a portfolio that provides commitment and seriousness. It takes an effort to do this. You got to commit yourself to build that body of work. That means you're very serious on what you're doing. And it portrays that when you build that body of work when other people look at it. Now, if you're involved in doing photography as a hobby versus a business, which really doesn't matter, this is number 4, and that is your marketing or promotion of yourself. In other words, your exposure. So I'll just call it marketing and exposure is number 4. And what does that mean? Well, it makes it easier to promote your work through websites, social media, because you're building that body of work to showcase, and you're going to have a following of people. That's what happened to me. I've got a website. I've never got a client through my website because all my work came from referrals of people seeing my work because it was very unique. And I just find that most people that go to my website are other photographers. But not to discount you not having a website, because some people need to have a website because that's the way they do their marketing and that. But I'm a little bit different. I sort of fly under the radar on that. So again, step number 4 is the marketing and exposure is another reason you should be building a body of work. And the very last thing before I get into the body of work I'll share with you, I did a couple years ago, and then I'm going to sort of project a project on for you. But the very last thing, number 5, is just personal fulfillment. I mean, it encourages reflection and purpose in one's creative journey. And the other thing, it provides a sense of accomplishment and your legacy of your work. I can't really express the feeling that you get when you're doing bodies of work and you sort of reflect back on that. There's just a lot of self-satisfaction that, hey, look what I was able to do. Now, I know if you're going to be new to this, it might not be the greatest thing for you to do, to finish. And when you look at it, go, it's sort of mediocre. It's okay if things are mediocre. We learn by doing. And I think so many people just get hung up on, well, I didn't do that great of a job and blah. Keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Work. Accept what you did. Analyze what you did. Think about what you would do different. Okay, so again, just to review, what are the 5 things or 5 reasons why you should build a body of work? Number 1 is artistic identity. Number 2, consistency and growth. Number 3, credibility and professionalism. Number 4 has to do with marketing and exposure. And number 5, did I do that right? 4 and 5. And that is personal fulfillment. All right, so let's take a look at a project I did. It's going to be about 2.5 minutes because I actually put this together as a slideshow, and there's a little bit of music in the background. And I'm going to tell you what I learned from doing this a couple of years ago, and then I'm going to project what maybe you should consider doing. Are we ready? Let's do it. All right, before we get into my body of work, if you can do me a favor, and that is please like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. This video is a little bit different because normally I put out videos every Wednesday, and once in a while I'll sneak in an extra one here and there, and that's one of these extra ones here and there. So let me explain the situation I was in. I'm going to show you the body of work, and then I want to tell you what I learned, and then I'm going to share some ideas that you might think about doing for yourself. Okay, so the setup here is a couple of years ago, I was invited to a studio in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it was a Halloween get-together. And so what I did was I actually asked permission if I could set up an area in the studio because they had multiple locations. And it was sort of a party atmosphere. People were not there just only to shoot. It was to socialize and just enjoy, each other's company. And it went on pretty late during the evening there. But a lot of people came all dressed up. And what I did was I set up a plain background, and I set up a marker on the ground. I set up my one light because it was so crowded. If I did multiple lights, I was going to have a problem because people were would be bumping into the equipment and stuff like that. So I only had one light set up on a stand, and even that got bumped into a couple times. And I had my camera on a tripod. And what I did was I grabbed people that had really cool outfits, took a photo of them, and maybe it was like 30 seconds, 3-4 shots real fast. That was it. And I decided to do a body work where I was doing compositing based on the outfit that they had. And I did it for free. It was nothing that I was charging for. It was really to be a little bit selfish on me, and that was to build a body of work, just to practice and doing something over and over again. And that was the main thing. But I donated the images back to the ones that wanted it. They could use it for social media if they want. They could print it out. I didn't care. So let's take a look at the body work I did, and it's about 2.5 minutes long. It's on a video here, and then I'm going to tell you what I learned, and then I'm going to showcase something that you should actually go out and do for yourself. Are we ready? Let's get started on this. All right, I hope you enjoyed that, and let me share with you what I actually learned from that. But a little heads up on this, I apologize. I'm assuming everybody knows who Joel Grime is as a commercial photographer. And so what I'm going to do is in the show notes, I'll put a link to his website so you can check him out and take a look at his style and his body of work that he does. All right, so with that out of the way, what did I learn? Well, one thing was I had to get used to doing something called speed. I had to get set up, everything, pre-focused, ready to go. Everything was all manual mode. And when I had somebody, in front of the plain background that I had, I shot them within like 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds. And I got the look that I wanted really quick. So it forced me, because I didn't want to, waste a lot of time with them, because they were there to socialize and have fun and that. So as I'm pulling it in, I'm just knocking it out fast. fast. And it got me in that motion of the first 2 or 3, I was a little bit uncomfortable with doing it that fast, but all of a sudden it just started working for me, and it started drawing from that speed and everything and got it done really quick. And so I was really proud of what I did. But the next thing that I learned was when I put this together, you have to remember that this was for fun, right? It's personal work. And I was limited to my setup. I would love to have had multiple lights set up because I'm big on doing some edge lighting in that, and I couldn't. It was just, straight on lighting, even though it was with a big umbrella, reflective umbrella. But I didn't have the space where I could do edge lighting and play with that a little bit. It also taught me that, again, I have a huge collection of backgrounds, and a lot that has to do with, over here in the United States, something called Halloween, and picking the right background based on the outfit that they had. Now, sometimes that was a challenge, and it wasn't like the best possible background I could do. But again, because this isn't client work, I just used what I had. Okay, but if that was client work, I would be better at the lighting, more creative lighting, and I would really focus on the backgrounds I was going to use for that composite if, again, that was client work. But it's not. But it's an exercise that I was able, as I was doing these composites, I was repeating over and over and over the concept of understanding, doing the cutout, touching things up. I was repeating that. And when you repeat things in Photoshop or anything, any software, when you do things over and over again, guess what happens? You remember the techniques that you use. Because one of the common questions that people always would come up to me privately, or even when I used to do the big workshops for 20 years, and I would have 100 to sometimes 300 people in a room, how in the heck do you remember this stuff? Because there's a ton of stuff we can do in Photoshop. And so my standard answer for people is always remember this one thing. Always remember you won't remember. So don't stress yourself out. We tend to only remember what we use over and over and over again. It's embedded into our brain, like my shortcut keystrokes and stuff. I just do it over and over again. A lot of times when I say, well, where's that in the drop-down menu? I can't remember where it's at because I haven't been there in the longest time. Where, in my earlier days, I knew where that stuff was at. But because I don't do that from the drop-down menus hardly at all, it's all shortcut techniques because time is money. I remember the shortcut techniques. I can't remember half the time where this stuff is in the drop-down menu. So also I maintain a diary of notes and stuff for myself on things I occasionally use with the steps on how to do it. Because again, I'm not going to remember stuff I occasionally do. I only remember things I do over and over again. So that's what I took away from doing that shoot. I mean, you always do stuff like that. And so here's what I want to push on you. And that is, I want you to think about your work. I don't care if you're a novice at this. I don't care if this is a hobby and you've been doing this for 10, 15 years as a hobby, or you're doing this professionally as a sideline or side business, whatever. I want you to think of the category that you do, your work. In other words, you might be a lifestyle type photographer, a street photographer, whatever, portrait photographer. I want you to take the time to go through all your images and pick your favorite ones out to create that body of work. And what I want you to consider doing, because there's many service bureaus out there, and they're not that expensive, at least in the United States, well under, say, $100, unless you're going to go a high end and plus the size. I want you to consider creating a tabletop book, not for sales or whatever, for you personally to have on your coffee table. When you have guests that come over to visit and stuff, they're going to look at that book and say, "Oh, what's this?" And they're looking at, again, your body of work. You don't have to worry about booting up a computer or, "Oh, let me get my iPad," or "Hang on, let me get my phone. Let me try to find," and then show that. And you're just sort of flipping through. When people are looking at printed material in a book, they take their time flipping through the pages. It's just a better experience. And things that are in print, again, I can't explain why that is and how that works on our mind and anything, but it's just the impact of a print is so much greater than digital, because everybody, I think, is conditioned to, "Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice." And they just flip through it. And I think just psychologically, we're just like speed, speed, speed all the time on those devices. Where here, again, it slows us down. All right, so that's, again, just in a nutshell, what I've learned. I'm not forcing you, that would be nasty. I'm encouraging you, pushing you, hey, let's get out there and let's put together a body of work. Maybe you already have enough images to create that, but if not, let's get out, set your mind to something as a topic and shoot, and get that body of work and then edit it, do consistently. If you're going to color grade an image, put the same color grading on all those images for that body of work. It makes it part of that experience and showcasing your work. All right, so with that out of the way, let's end this the way I normally do, and that is let's get that camera out. Let's make mistakes. Why? because we learn from mistakes. Let's think out of the box creatively. Literally, let's think out of the box. Until next time, see ya.